convenes. I'm going to call to order the Thursday night, January 17th, 2013 meeting of the Littleton Zoning Board of Appeals. We're in room 103 of the Littleton Town offices at 37 Shattuck Street, Littleton, Mass. And at 7:15, we're calling the case number 783A of Kimlock Farms, request for modification of a 40B comprehensive permit at Kimlock Farms. I just have a couple of housekeeping matters. Did I sit on the decision of this? I have business relationships with these people, but not on this project, so if I sat on it, I can screw down. Okay. We also have a missing member tonight. There was a family business that she had to attend to. So do we have any of the alternates voted on this Kimlock Farms decision originally, or did we have a full board at that time? Do you have that in your notes, or do you have it in the decision?
It doesn't make any difference. I think we can go with any you want.
Okay, so Alan, I'm going to pick you for Kimlock Farms, okay?
Okay.
So would you present, please?
Good evening, Steve Marsh, Westchester Company for Kimlock Farms, Jim DeAugustine. We had a couple of issues regarding something that we thought that we had taken care of previously regarding distances with the subject dwellings being too close. We had an issue with the fire department regarding flows for the fire hydrant. So we paid for, back in 2010, to have a study done to determine flow rates. It was done through a computer-generated calculation to determine flows. Since then, we've done an actual test. We got the results today, and I believe you have a letter from Keith Dunn saying that we're in compliance to keep the houses right where they are. Additionally, we moved the fire hydrant. We did the loop around Taglia. We moved 2 of the fire hydrants, not on our own accord, but through the water department's recommendation. I believe Mr. Dunn is fine with that as well. And then the last issue was the affordable units, units 4 and 5. Both will have pressure-treated decks. So those are the 3 issues that we had.
All right, do you have a plan showing all that?
The 5 always was going to have a deck. 4, the plan said a patio, but there was some concern they wanted decks on both of them. Someone said that.
Everything's, the plans are exactly the same with respect to decks and patios.
It's just because of the topography, how it works out, instead of capes, are all going to have patios, and 3 of the colonials are going to have decks.
We'll provide them on the as-bills.
But because of the way the landscaping is, the affordable cape will have a deck instead.
Are the decks still going to meet all the setbacks?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, first board members, any comments, any questions?
So which units have got the decks?
Units, for the affordables, units 4 and 5.
So this issue was created basically for the projections for the fireplaces.
The issue, yes,
Yes,
exactly.
between 1 and 2, that's correct.
What are the affordable unit numbers again?
4 and 5, lots 4, lot 5.
And they're pressure treated?
Yes.
What are the other decks on the other units going to
They'll
be?
be pressure treated, but the other ones have patios. The majority of them have patios.
So in other words, they're putting a wooden deck in instead of a patio.
Because of elevations.
Right.
Correct.
4 of the units have patios, 4 of the units have decks, just because of the elevations of the ground.
So the ones that have decks, there'll be 2, there is 8 total, right?
Correct.
There'll be 2 that are market units that will have elevated decks that will also be wood pressure treated.
That is
Yes.
correct.
Yeah.
So if you look at the outside, they'll all look the same.
Okay.
Same size, same shape, everything.
Okay, so we have a letter from, anybody else have any comments? Okay, we have a letter from the building commissioner. The applicant is seeking relief from the approved 40B comprehensive permit site plan showing a minimum distance of 18 feet between buildings number 3 Tashley Way and 5 Tashley Way. The minimum distance required is a derived form fire department regulation concerning fire flow of water in the area. See comments from the fire department. The present separation distance of the 2 noted structures is less than that was approved in the 40B special permit by this board. The applicant was instructed to seek a resolution before this board to avoid any further delay in the construction of the project. No further comment. And the fire department writes a letter January 17th. Dear board members, I reviewed a flow test report from a flow test that was conducted on 1/16/13 at 10 o'clock p.m. This report shows an available fire flow is 2742 GPM, which is capable of providing sufficient water flow for residential structures with separation greater than 11 feet in FPA 1141. The reduction to building separation to 14 feet 10 inches is acceptable to the fire department. If I can be of further assistance, please contact us. Go ahead.
The fire test, the flow test was run 10 o'clock at night.
They do it at night, so it doesn't impact anything.
Because, yeah, they say after it's done, it can churn things up and want it to settle while people are sleeping.
Good idea. Okay.
Any butters present who wish to be heard? Anybody interested in the 40B project on Kemlock Farms with this minor modification to the plans? Okay, board, I ask for your pleasure.
I don't see any problems with this, so the fire department is all set with it by the flow test. And, you know, by changing from a patio to a wooden deck, as long as it's the same size and everything else, I think that may even be an improvement.
Anyone else?
No problem.
Motion to close?
Motion to close?
Second, please.
Second.
Let's give it to Alan.
Yeah.
We don't hear from him very often.
No? Yay.
All those in favor of closing the hearing signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. You've had your discussion. Any further deliberation? Can I have a motion?
There's a motion, we approve the request for relocation of the units and for changing of the, from the patios to the decks. Anything else? Just
Fire hydrant.
Fire hydrants.
in the fire hydrant location is per the fire department's approval.
Can I just ask, I didn't understand that the units are relocating. Are they actually relocating or
No,
they're...
there was actually, no, originally they were shown on a plan exactly where they are. What we do when we lay them out, I have the footings laid out by a surveyor, I have then I have them come out and check that, then I have them lay out the actual foundation. Then I did as-built subsequent to that, which I've submitted to the building department, even though we don't need them until we're done. But we've been doing it because the tolerances are so tight there. So I think it was really actually a problem with the plan that didn't reflect what was approved a long time ago. So we'll correct it on the as-bills.
So do you really want to say the buildings are, the locations are changing? Let's just insert in your motion that the separation between the two buildings,
Separation no greater than 11 feet.
no, it's actually
14-foot.
14
Oh,
feet,
you-
10 inches between units 1 and 2 only. We're not approving all the buildings to be
That is correct,
separated.
yeah.
So can you
Okay,
just amend your motion?
All right, building separation to be no greater than 15 feet.
Between units 1 and 2.
Between units, is it 1 and 2?
Yes.
1 and 2, okay.
1410, no, excuse me.
All right,
He said 15 feet,
Yeah.
no greater than.
15
No.
feet. It says 1410 in here, but I want to give him that little leeway of 2 inches, so...
No,
they'll-
but he needs it in the other direction.
The other direction.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're closer.
yeah.
For 1410.
So he needs
Yeah.
You're saying that'd be
14.6 or
15.
He
something.
said 14,
yeah.
14.6.
14.6.
Yeah.
The houses are up and done though, so
They say 14.10, that's what they asked for.
Okay, so that you're, okay, so you're allowing it to be 14.6, so if it's 14.10, you're still within the parameter. Okay, 14 foot 6 inches. No less than.
Can I paraphrase it? The motion in front of you is a motion to allow the side distance between units 1 and 2 to be no less than 14 feet 6 inches with foundations 20 feet apart? That's what he asked for.
that's what they are. So,
We don't have to say it then.
All right,
And to allow the relocation of fire hydrants, provided they're shown on the as-built plans, and
and the conversion, change from patio to wooden decks at units, lots 4 and 5.
Can we say pressure treated wooden decks?
Pressure treated.
Well,
5 already had the deck, 4 doesn't.
pressure treated is for your framing member, not the decking, not the railing, and whatever other components in there, not pressure treated, correct?
They could be all pressure treated.
Right, so that's why I did not want to add pressure
Okay.
treated in there, because all the components are not pressure treated.
Okay,
So-
your motion.
So the wooden decks.
Okay. Can I have a second to the motion if anybody remembers what it was?
I'll second.
John seconding that motion. Okay, can we have a vote? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. Thank you. We have a couple of minutes till the next hearing. Do we have any minutes that we could approve real quickly?
October 18th.
What are we up to, October? I think that was an easy set.
We've been out for a couple of months.
Are we up to October, though? Did we do September?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
That's
So,
the one we have in front of us.
can we look at the October minutes all? Okay, I just had minor spelling errors. Bill, do you have anything significant you want to?
Yeah, the only thing is on the second page, for case 817A, Kathleen Cochran, should add in there lot 12 is Ipswich Drive. To be consistent with everything else we do in our minutes. Other than that, I think it's great.
They were great minutes. They were very good minutes, and I read a bunch at a time, so they were all good, but just minor stuff. On the second paragraph on page 2, third line down in the center, there were questions, please. Second line up, same paragraph, second line up from the last of that, there was discussion of the location of hydrants. The applicant stated they have been reviewed. Say it. Yep. Okay. And then, next paragraph, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines down, at the end, Mr. Hale stated that they have been forthright. Okay? Yep. That's it. I'll take a motion to approve those as amended.
Motion to approve as amended.
Second motion.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Minutes of October have been approved. Did we get a November set?
I have a number here.
Okay, we'll take it to the next meeting. Okay.
And then, Sherry, I have the subcommittee minutes. I don't know if those need to be approved or...
They should be approved. Let's wait till the end of the night. Are they long?
No.
Okay, so Bill and I have a set and Jeff and I have a set. Okay, we'll do that at the end of the night.
Okay.
Is this full on time?
Pretty much.
Pretty much? No bills to sign? Are you going to televise the Omni meeting?
Yes.
My board member who's missing would like to be able to review it so that she can vote on the decision. So can she contact you?
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. Okay, the time is 7:30. I'll call to order the hearing of case number 818A of Applewood Construction, a request for a variance or a special permit under section 17331 for a proposed retaining wall at 19 Crane Road. Mr. Vice Chair. Please let the record reflect that I need to stand down and leave the room because I have a business relationship and an interest in the outcome of this matter.
Rod and Mark, can you be the voting members on this?
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, Attorney Kevin Erickson on behalf of the applicant, Applewood Construction, seeking a variance for setback relief related to a retaining wall for the proposed septic system for this lot. I have a plan here, I can pass these out, with the highlighted sections of the retaining wall that will be holding fill in excess of 4 feet, which qualifies it as a structure. As such, you'll need a variance to put it where the septic system is going because the structure will not meet the setbacks. The hardship here on this lot is owing to the soil and topography. And this is an instance where the relatively flat topography actually works against us because there's also, the lot is primarily a ridgeberry soil, which is results in a perched water table, a very high water table. The seasonal high water table on this lot is 30 inches to 18 inches. By state law, we have to have the bottom of our system 4 feet above the water table. In order to do that, we have to bring in fill, and you can see from the elevations there, and it is the highlighted sections that'll be over 4 feet. But the elevations require, when we bring in the fill, and you consider the system depth of 18 inches plus material on top of that, there are portions of that wall, quite a bit, that are just over 4 feet in height. So obviously that wall is going to be built as according to that plan, and you can see the setback, particularly in the, we don't have an issue with the setback on the side yard from here, but it's highlighted just for consistency so you know the height of the wall. But obviously right here along the boundary line and in front here. And because of the wetlands, you can see this wetland line up here in green. We have to stay at least 50 feet away from the wetlands with our system. There is no other place for us to put the septic, unfortunately. So we truly do have a hardship. We're requesting the relief to be able to install this system and the corresponding retaining wall.
All right, let the record show that, what we were given is a colored portion of the main site map, and the main site map is part of the application packet that we received called Subsurface Sewage Disposal System by NDS and dated 9/24/12 for the for location at Crane Road, Littleton, Mass. Applicant Applewood Construction Corporation. Any question?
I can hand this out. I have revised the cover letter and submitted electronically explaining the hardship in more detail. I have copies here.
I believe that was part of our package.
Yes, so I
Okay,
can just
that
leave
is-
them.
Okay, the letter of December 24th, 2012, correct?
That's right.
All right. Also, we have a comment from the building commissioner dated January 17, 2013. Says Applewood Construction, the applicant is seeking relief from the provisions of section 17331, tentative use schedule. Specifically, a proposed retaining wall with an unbalanced fill of greater than 4 feet is proposed to be constructed in conjunction with a septic system design within the required setback. Pursuant to the Littleton zoning bylaws, definition of a structure, said retaining wall must maintain the required setback as noted in 17331, or seek a variance for setback reduction from the Littleton Board of Appeals. No further comment. Questions from board members? Jeff?
Are there any abutters?
Let's deal with,
Well, I'm just,
Okay.
because they're the ones who are going to be affected by
Yeah,
this.
yeah,
It's actually, in my view, awful, but I don't know if that's the basis of, because along the road, the wall will be 6 feet high. I just,
It's a very tough lot.
What's the construction?
What is that, please?
And what is, how will the wall be built?
I believe it's going to be built out of landscaping stone.
Okay, and what is that?
A little more attractive than poured concrete.
Yeah, in fact, the developer is actually supposed to be here, but he was in a meeting in Tingsboro, so he's running a little bit behind, but he could certainly provide more detail on that. The one thing I'll say is our immediate neighbor is the owner of this lot. We have it under agreement to purchase it from the neighbor. They have had these two lots. They reside on this one, the one immediately adjacent, and this second lot is a buildable lot. It's just a very tough lot because of how wet it is. So we've been seeking the permits and approvals so that we can close and build on this side. So,
To further clarify that point, we do have a note from the Board of Assessors dated October 15, 2012, that says that there was one lot that's been split to two lots, which is lot number 8, 19 Crane Road, lot 9, which is 21 Crane Road. The parcel as we have it today on here, which is lot 9, instead of 19, will actually be given the address of 21 Crane Road. And that was dated October 15th.
Well, my comment about the front yard setback is that while I can see on the side where the seller of the property will not object to it, I would think that everyone on Crane Road would object to a 6-foot-high wall along the road.
I guess if there are no abutters here this evening, they didn't have any objections, at least the immediate within
we
300.
can't presume that.
Also, too, that brings up a good point that, Mr. Yates is raising, that if it's 6 feet high, how close to the actual edge of the road surface is this wall going to be? So when the car is coming out of that driveway, will this visibility be impaired?
You can see the edge of pavement on the plan, so it looks to me, I mean, this is scalable.
So the edge of the pavement is that straight line on the bottom?
Yeah, see the light gray line, it looks
Yep.
like edge of pavement, and the driveway actually comes out, and that, it doesn't look to me as if there'd be any issue for visibility. Particularly the way that the road runs.
Okay. Jeff, anything else?
I think there was a reason why this was originally one lot.
Well, when it was originally approved, this lot plan actually showed two lots. We didn't actually get an A&R endorsed. It's been two lots
Okay.
for some time.
John?
Do you have the septic permit already issued? on
Yes, yes. We received our Board of Health permit for this system.
this? Okay. Did you ask for a variance to lower this system?
We sought multiple variances, although I don't know if one was sought to lower the system.
There is, I think they do, in certain cases, will allow you to lower the height of the system. And the only thing is that if you didn't request it, I think it's an important thing that it should have been requested because of the height of your retaining walls and against the road. If you requested it and they didn't give it to you, then...
Unfortunately, I was not part of that application. The engineer did it. I don't know if it was
Is that
requested.
something you could give us information on if we postpone this to the following month?
Well, if I believe, like I said, my client is supposed to be here in a few minutes. I could contact him if you want to table this until after your next meeting.
Probably. I mean, I just
All right,
think
well,
it would help the
Yeah,
vote if...
and I think it's a very valid point and everything else. All right, let's go through it before we actually
Sure.
close or continue. Give your client a few more minutes to see if he comes in. Ryan, you got any questions?
Yeah, how high above groundwater is this right now?
The seasonal High water table is 18 inches, so
I mean, the bottom of the, I guess, leach field to the groundwater?
the bottom of the leach field to the groundwater.
It's 4 feet, I think he said.
Yeah.
At 4 feet.
Yeah.
Above groundwater.
That's right, that's what we
Okay.
need to maintain from the bottom to the seasonal high water
Yeah.
table, so.
And what can you get a variance on?
Well, I don't know, see, the state code and this Board of Health, Neshoba Board of Health, so the state is less than Neshoba most times.
Yeah, but you can't, like you say, you can't get a variance, even a foot or something.
You might be able to, I'm not sure, see, they might have already applied for it, that's what's important. If they applied
Yeah,
for it and they
they
didn't
can-
get it, most times they don't give you these variances.
But if they didn't apply for it, can we require that they
Well,
apply
that
for it?
makes-
Well, we could, with their willingness, continue for a month and have them go back and check with the Board of Health to see if they would grant.
My client is actually right here.
Good evening. Sorry,
That's right, the question right away, we're gonna put you in the hot seat, quick. The question at hand right now is that when you were at the Board of Health,
yes.
did you request to, lower the system?
We requested a variance to the distance to the wetlands, because normally the town requires 75 or 100 feet. And the state code requires we keep at least a minimum 4-foot separation from the water table and the bed bottom. So we couldn't get a variance from that, because that's in the state environmental code,
And that's what this is designed at?
Yes.
The state code?
So-
just 4 feet.
Yes, that Board of Health
Yes.
does grant variances to lower that.
You can't go less than before. Littleton was 6, I think, at one time, or you had to be above
That's right.
water.
And in fact, if you have a rapid permeable soil, sometimes they increase the distance, because that 4-foot separation is necessary for the bacteria and the virus particles to be filtered out before it enters the groundwater, so that you don't get contamination in the groundwater.
Okay.
And I think one of the concerns here was is the wall vertically built, or is it stepped back as it's going up?
It's vertically built, but we use a geogrid after you come up a couple layers high.
What is
So
it, what is it built of?
It's
The wall?
precast concrete with a stone face front.
Okay, so there's like sort of like the rough-hewn block?
Yes.
Okay.
They're about 18 inches high, 42 inches long. And because of the height also, it had to be designed by a structural engineer, and we submitted those plans to the building department.
For the record, can I have your name?
Walter Erickson from Applewood Construction,
Can I spell the last name, please?
Eriksen.
Thank you. Ron, you all set with your question?
Yeah.
You got anything else?
No.
Mark?
Yeah, I mean, both two sides of the septic system are hard up against the next lot as well as the road.
Yeah.
You said something about the lot 8 being bought by the owner of lot 9?
No,
Or are they gonna be
Lot
two-
8 is owned by the same owner of Lot 9.
Okay.
He just happens to own both of these lots, and Lot 9 is vacant.
So the current owner probably doesn't mind that there's a wall right on his
We don't
lot.
think so.
But we can't say that future owners, because I mean, if something happens to the wall, how are you going to work on it without trespassing?
Well, fortunately, because it slopes uphill on that side, that's the shallowest part of the wall. So at the back part, for instance, up near the house, that wall is actually only 2 or 3 feet high.
I think to help clarify the questioning at hand, the people who own Lot 8 also own Lot 9.
Yes, they're selling it to
They-
me.
Okay, so they're selling it to you so that you're going to build on it and put it up for sale.
Yes.
Okay, so the people at Lot 8 are the people who are going to be facing that wall. So it's the people who are buying the new lot, when they buy it, they'll know what they're buying. But it's the people in Lot 8 own the property and they basically approved it. So, I think, does that help answer your question?
Well, again, people who own Lot 8 own it today, but if they sell it to somebody in the future that,
But if you sell something that's already existing, people are going to know what they're buying because it will be there.
but there could be an issue, I mean, they're saying I mean, I know we've brought this up before, when someone tries to build too close to the line, well, how are you going to maintain it without going on your neighbor's property? And today, the neighbor doesn't mind, but tomorrow, a new neighbor might,
But
and then you run into...
But then they get to, it's a little bit different scenario, and I agree with you. I totally agree with you. But this is a different scenario where the people, if Lot 8 gets sold, the new buyers will know exactly what's there. And any questions they may have would get dealt with at that point. So, I think it's a little bit different scenario, but no, it's a valid point.
Now, you could say the same for the frontage, because it's hard up against the lot line right along the road, and granted, it's several feet from the pavement, but it's still right up against town property.
Yeah, it kind of scales out because it is about 10-foot setback, which is difficult.
Maybe 10 feet from the edge of the pavement, but
Right,
but it's actually on the lot line.
yes.
Yeah, so even though it's considered a structure as far as the building permit goes, it's not in terms of setbacks.
Yes, it is. Yeah, that's why it's under the intensity use table, because the structure is a building instead of a set, including a retaining wall and 4-foot differential. So that's why it's before us.
So
If it was
they're-
less than 4 feet, it would be landscape. If it's more than 4 feet, it's a structure.
Okay, so in this case, they're up against it, they're asking for a variance from front setback from 30 feet to 0.
Yes.
Yes, and on the side from 15 feet to
1.
1, yes. And you know, as we've dealt with in the past, it's unfortunate that the Board of Health keeps approving these systems and then making applicants come to us to say, okay, if you want to build, you have to have a variance. If we deny the variance, they can't build.
I will say, I think Littleton's code is unique in the way it's worded, where they do count that 4-foot wall as a structure.
That's
because,
not unique.
uh,
I was in the business for over 20 years. It's very common that, in fact, under the state building code, retaining wall of 4 feet of differential is considered a structure.
Well, I know it requires a building permit.
It is most zoning that I know of.
Yeah.
It is the same thing, because with most zoning, where the definition of structure will follow the state building code. Just for simplicity, so that you don't hit, to eliminate confusion.
One of the things that pushes the system so far forward is the location of the well. Is there's no town water in Crane Road, or?
The town water is about 500 feet away, but it's not the well so much as the wetlands in the back. That green line represents the wetlands, and unfortunately, it just kind of wraps right around this lot.
But you have the structure located much closer to the wetlands, and it seems like the pushing the system forward is the result of this 100-foot radius of the well.
Partially, but the Conservation Commission also has a regulation regarding the distance of a structure from the wetlands. So we're very close to that. And then we have to have the house foundation at least 20 feet away from the leaching system. Again, that's in the state code. So, you know, it's a difficult situation. Pre-existing lot with tough topography, tough soils, and wetlands.
Mark, anything further?
Yeah, and you said the wall is going to be made out of these concrete blocks?
Yes,
Fronted by.
Well, fronted, yeah.
they're concrete, it's a precast concrete
Yeah, I
with
think
a stone veneer.
Yeah.
And they last virtually forever.
It's an engineered system.
Yes. We have to set them with an excavator. We'll be up top here, and we set them with an excavator. They weigh probably 600 pounds apiece. And, you know, they're structurally very sound, and it was designed by a structural engineer as well, and they won't move once they're set in place.
Is it a vertical wall, or what's the slope?
It's vertical.
And the wall extends the whole length of the driveway also.
Yes.
And it's roughly 6 feet high that whole way.
Yes.
Mark, anything else?
No.
Alan, any questions, comments? Hey, I don't have anything to add to the discussion we've already had. All right, I will open it up. Are there any abutters to this property who have a comment or a question? and the abutters to the property. Are the owners of the property present? Okay. Anybody in the audience have a question in connection with this? All right, hearing none.
I think I saw a hand go up back there.
Huh?
You had a hand up.
Where? Yes. Identify yourself for the record, please.
Beverly Sear, 11 Hartwell Avenue. We have a case on Tehadawon Road of a retaining wall built with these great big boulders, or whatever you call them. That looks like it's failed. I was wondering if this construction was in any way similar to that. Do you know what I'm talking about out on Tehadawon Road?
I don't know.
I'm sorry, I don't know the address, but
But it is a standard engineered system, correct?
it's a visible retaining wall.
Yeah, right. Right, the system that they're proposing here, which will be covered in the building permit process, is a product that's out there. It is an engineered system. That's something that will be looked into with the building permit process, and the building commissioner will check it out as well. So,
In addition, we had to have a structural engineer design the plans for it, and he will be coming out and inspecting it and certifying it after we're complete.
yeah. Okay. Any further discussion, board? They have a motion to close.
Motion to close?
Second?
I'll second that.
Mark? Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor of closing this hearing, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. We will make our decision with the allotted time and get back to you.
All right, thank you very much.
It'll most likely be like the end of the night.
Thank you.
So you want to tell Ms. Doyle that she can come back in the room?
And like, you have to build on it. You have to get variances to build on it. And at the end of the day, that's what the point is. Get the permits for it, so turn around and sell it. Well, it's just, it's hard up against the road. For the road. That's where the road's here, but I mean, it's town property.
Okay, have we passed around a sign-in sheet, or is anybody signing in at the entry there?
Well, there's a sheet, somebody put it here, and there's a lot of names in it.
Okay, could we pass that around? I'd like people to sign in, please. It's after 7:40, so I'm going to call the hearing continuation, case number 795B, 15 Great Road LLC, for the amended 40B comprehensive permit application to construct 200 rental unit development at 15 Great Road. And I guess where we stand on this one is that at our last meeting, we started to go over the details on the draft decision that was presented to us for review and comment. And maybe we should start there to review some more. I'm sure as you...
Excuse me, is this online, the draft decision?
I believe the draft decision is online and it's available.
I don't find it, not so.
It's online, it's in the website. Can you give somebody the...
It's under the copy here, and it's under January 15, 13, revised plans and draft decision. No, on the 15 Great Road page, under revised comprehensive permit, and then scroll down to January 15, revised plans and draft decision.
All the information on this house.
A lot of information on that page.
One more time, please, so everyone can hear it and take notes. They go to what website?
15 Great Road,
It is
from the
Board of
home
Selectmen
page.
website, right, not your website, but the Board of Selectmen website.
From the home page,
It's the CBA's one.
15 Great Road has its own page.
We're talking about the draft decision for comprehensive permit. It's the ZBA website, Keith?
The page that is linked with all the information about this project is accessed from, among other places, the direct link up from the homepage. You can follow, if you want to do it the hard way, you can go to Town Board, Zoning Board of Appeals, 40B, and then specifically 15 Great Road.
Okay. And I believe it's been there a while.
This is January 16th.
Okay, so we're at the point where we had a few outstanding issues that we were trying to resolve, but basically, I think that we've heard most of what we need to hear about the comprehensive permit. And so I thought we'd go through the draft decision if anybody had any further comments. Cheryl was unable to attend tonight due to a family emergency. She has asked to be filled in by reading and listening to the tape, watching the tape of tonight's hearing. She has been pretty involved and passionate from day one, so I'm not looking to vote anything definitive tonight because I think we ought to at least give her a chance to weigh in. I know that some of the stuff that she talked about, the landscaping and other matters, I think she still wants to review and make sure they're in there. But for tonight and for discussion purposes and in case a vote is taken, I think I need to appoint an alternate. So who'd you have for the last hearing?
I think it would have been, I had Rod and Mark, because you had Ellen on the first one, so they're
All right, so I'm going to take, Mark, you've been to all of them? You've been to all the hearings or not?
I think I may have missed like one of the very early ones, last June.
How about you, Rod?
I don't think I missed.
You don't think you missed any? And Alan?
I missed one,
You missed one. So let me take Rod for tonight's alternate, in case we have to have a vote on anything. Okay. Who wants to start? Yes.
One thing I don't want to bring up, at the last meeting, there was a lot of questions, a lot of board members have made comments, and the applicant and lawyers from both sides and everything else gone through this. I also, just want to make the disclosure that I had a concern with what is now condition number 25 in here of the fire alarm system. Concerned with the language in that and acceptability to the fire department. I contacted the chief. He got in touch with his fire safety officer. They reviewed the language of this particular condition and reported back to me and said that they have no problems with the language. They understand what it means. They said that they can work with it. So with that being said, then I am satisfied because they have it. I've also talked to the building commissioner because he's the one who's going to be mainly enforcing this. I have asked him over the past several months, and a couple of times recently within the last month, to review it. I believe even as of today, he was reviewing the latest draft that we have to see if he has any comments about language or conditions in here. Because again, he's the one that's going to live with it more than we as a board are. Lacking any response from the building commissioner, I take it that he does not have any serious problems with the language in this decision as drafted and presented tonight.
And since we're probably not going to vote the decision tonight, we have the opportunity to make sure of that before we vote the decision. I also wanted to read into the record 2 letters that were received just today. So the first one was, as long as you're on the issue of other boards commenting, first one was from Heather Hampson of the Conservation Commission. She writes, the Conservation Commission has had 2 hearings with both Oxbow and Places regarding the subdivision and 40B project at 15 Great Road. The Commission has addressed their concerns with the wetland crossing and drainage to the engineering firm. The crossing has been enlarged to allow for animal crossing as requested by the Commission, and drainage calculations are being reviewed by the planning board and the town's engineer from Green International. The commission is waiting for the planning board to make a decision on the project, and we are also waiting to hear from Natural Heritage on the project with the detail of a conservation restriction on the site. At this time, those are the only concerns the commission has on the project. Commission will meet again on Monday, January 28th. I take that to mean that as to the 40B envelope, there's not a problem, because, is your, from places, are you here today?
I am.
Because you've satisfied them about widening the crossing. Will you address that?
Sure. We had a 4x4 culvert design to cross the wetlands, and while it's sufficient hydraulically, and your engineer has 2x4, while it was sufficient hydraulically to address the needs, the Conservation Commission wanted to make a wildlife passage, so we simply, at the Commission's request, increased the size of the culvert so that skunks and raccoons and other critters can actually crawl under the road rather than go over the road.
Will they be, is there a sign? Do they know?
If they obey the sign.
Okay, thank you. I had, any other boards or comments that came in? Does anybody know of? I will say that I think it's maybe, I don't know if you want me to call on the selectmen or just report what I heard. I wasn't at that selectmen's meeting. So maybe, Ms. Bergman, you can tell us what...
I wasn't at that.
You weren't at that meeting either. Mr. Heath, how about you, town council? How about if you report on the selectmen's meeting?
We have the chair. You want to report from?
Oh, how about the chair? Okay.
I'm in disguise. Greg Chentney, the selectman chair. We actually made the hearing, postponed the hearing, or continued the hearing rather, until February 4th. We did not make a decision. There were some concerns. We've actually had town council taking a look at them. Chris, if you want to go through the laundry list that we gave you, if you know it off the top of your head. But essentially, we had a few issues that came up. Blasting was one of them. What was the other one that came up, Chris? We had to address.
The board's authority to enter into the...
Correct, the board's authority to enter into the host community agreement, which you're looking into. And then there was one other piece as well. What was the third? Off the top of my head, I don't recall what it was.
I think the third was...
It'll come to me if I think about one.
Wait, raise your hand, I'll call.
The connection of the wastewater.
The wastewater facility.
And
the ownership of the town.
ownership of the town going under the road for the Surrey Road.
For the Surrey Road connection.
connection.
Okay. So, just to remind the board that one of the things that we have in our draft decision is a reference to the host community agreement, and the host community agreement references our draft decision. So we had anticipated not having to render our decision until we hear what the selectmen's pleasure is with the host community agreement. And provided that those timelines still look like they're going to work, I suppose we could schedule our deliberation on the decision language to a date after February 4th, so we can see what the selectmen have done. In addition, I think Planning Board had a meeting, and I see, Mr. McIver, is anyone else here from Planning Board? Your chair's not here, so why don't you speak about Planning Board's meeting?
We heard it for the first time, when we saw the documentation for the first time. And I noticed you were talking about the open space set aside, which is really the 40A, which is what we were hearing. But it sounds like you're curious about the whole host community agreement. Well, let me just summarize and try and make it simple and straightforward. So we had concerns about the open space plan because the open space didn't seem to be, set aside didn't seem to be in compliance with open space bylaw, which is something before us. Wasn't usable, wasn't set aside, it's not buildable. There was also concern about wastewater treatment linkage from the 40A to the 40B. One of the concerns was what you're dealing with, and this is appropriate to mention it, that you're dealing with the 40B, it's within your purview, but sort of questioned whether you should really be addressing sewage linkage from the wastewater treatment facility because it doesn't add any more affordable housing units, it does go up to the border where we are, sort of puts all the onus upon us, and we had concerns about it. So that would be one of the things. The majority of the people in discussion, no vote, majority of the people had concerns about that. So that's really right towards the top. The other concerns, I guess, was discussion about the rights and easement to the remote sites, these marginal sites on the ledge on Surrey Road.
Sorry.
So I think that sort of encompasses it. If anyone has any other take, including council on the other side, please feel free to mention.
Well, I'm just taking the input now from the boards. We'll gather all that, and then we'll...
So there were some real concerns.
And then we'll go around the room.
Your permit, your comprehensive permit. That just really focuses it.
Okay, so I was at the planning board meeting, and I think that you've accurately reflected what their concerns were. I was not at the selectmen's meeting. I have read some since then, and I do hear concerns with the Surrey Road connection still sort of looming out there. So when is your next hearing on this, and is it likely that you'll be addressing open space versus conventional, or none at all?
We will be addressing that, before that, no matter what it is. The sewage line, of course, it affects both of them. But we will be addressing some of that. Next one's the Thursday, towards the end of the month, maybe it's the 29th, 30th, 31st.
Of this month, of January.
Right.
So again, if we didn't make our decision until after February 4th, likely we're going to have further input from Planning Board and from the Board of Selectmen on both of these issues.
And we have an agenda, currently administrative assistants on vacation until a few days beforehand.
And just sort of to summarize what I think you've just said and what I think I've been gleaning from all of this, Mr. Marchand, you can correct me if you think I'm wrong, but it is true that this board has the purview over the comprehensive decision. It is also true that we cannot grant hookup rights per se. I'm not clear whether we can restrict the wastewater treatment facility to the envelope of the 40B. This board has had an awful lot of information about that, and we have yet to hear anyone say definitively we have the absolute right to do that. Instead, we have heard that we have, from the applicant, that we have no right to restrict the hookups, and from town council, maybe a 50-50 shot at having the restriction pass some appeal. Also, as I reflected on the way that all of this came down, there was at least one meeting at which the developer had said, without hooking up, we may need to have more 3-bedroom units. It's just an economic reality for the cost of the treatment plant. I personally don't consider that a threat. I consider it a reality. And some of us on the board said, so what, we don't care if there's more 3-bedroom units, but I think there are people that feel differently about that. I also recall taking a poll on this board where the board was not particularly interested in rendering a decision that's likely going to be appealed in restricting the hookups, but we said if there were going to be any discussion about hookups, we would like to at least get some mitigation for the developer's benefit in having hookups. I think I can put it that way, the best way. So we started and embarked on this host community agreement route, just to say, planning board decides if there's going to be a subdivision. Once there's a subdivision, DEP decides if there's going to be hookups, not us. And so at least if the developer's going to get the rights from planning board and the rights from DEP, we wanted to say we need some mitigation in our decision. And that's where we came down on all of this. Now, I still think there's merit in us letting the planning board and the selectmen weigh in before we make a decision. Because once we make that decision, we sort of tip the scales in one side or the other. And I think, Mr. MacGyver, you've been saying that all along, and I have no problem with our decision being postponed. Even though we're all autonomous, we each have a right to our own decision here. I think it makes sense to hear what the other two boards are going to do. If we were to close the hearing tonight, because I think we've taken about all we can take from them on this side, and the merit to closing the hearing is that I don't have to look at one more redraft of any of these decisions. So if we were to close the hearing tonight, we have, I believe, 40 days to render a decision, and we're still within our rights. We also are at a junction here where, if we don't close the hearing tonight, we have to ask the applicant to extend. And I haven't even asked if they'd give us the extension or not, because again, my preference would be to close it and stop the back and forth. Let's move forward and let the chips fall where they may, one way or another. Mr. MacGyver.
Just for clarification, there's something that got mentioned at the selectmen's meeting, and I think it's a little confusing, it was unclear at the planning board meeting. DEP, it will professionally deal with the wastewater treatment facility, no matter what's connected to it. They could care less about the zoning. They don't address zoning. They're concerned about land under control and deal with it. You're concerned about zoning, you do a comprehensive permit for the 40B lot. Planning board is concerned about the subdivision of 40A. That's within their purview. So it's really, what the wastewater treatment facility is like, the DEP issue completely remote from the zoning. So, where we hear, DEP will approve this, they'll do the wastewater treatment facility. They're silent on the zone.
I understand that.
It's been implied they will trump on the zoning, and we have our own bylaws. We'll do our stuff, the state will do its stuff, and the state won't deal with the zoning.
Maybe, Ann, I don't know if you can answer this or not, but this is what I keep getting stuck on. If we were to approve the comprehensive permit and we stay silent about hookups, and let's say planning board does not approve a subdivision or a open space plan, there's still 5 lots on Gristmill that the developer owns the land between the lot and the WWTF. Can they hook those up? I mean, if they went to DEP and said, we have this other land we want to hook up, can they do that? Will DEP has the jurisdiction over that? If you know.
I don't know. I mean, I have a lot of questions about a lot of the interfacing of this that I'll have to find out at some point.
Okay.
But I think it's still a big question in my mind, the 40A part with the 40B and the connections to the, and I also have other concerns with who is going to ultimately deal with the treatment facility and be sure that it's written up that it will not come back to the town and be a town liability, given we're looking at 3 different 40B sites in town that have gone kapunk in one form or another. So that's another issue too. So
fair enough. And I didn't identify you. I called on you without identifying you. Would you identify yourself for the record?
Anne Laree, 39 Dahlia Drive. I'm not here on behalf of the Board of Health, but I am the Vice Chair of the Board of Health.
Thank you for clarifying that. Okay.
Madam Chair, can I just...
Mr. Hill.
Just like to say a couple things. In terms of the wastewater treatment facility, we did make a presentation to the Board of Health. We did meet with the Board of Health agent. I have talked with the director of groundwater and surface water discharge permits for the state, David Ferris, and he informed me that there are 300 groundwater discharge permits operating in the state. Some of them go back 40 plus years. In the town of Westford, for instance, there are 17. In the town of Boxborough, there are 8. In Acton, there are 8. In Littleton, there are 4. Many of these groundwater discharge facilities, wastewater treatment facilities, service many different users and many different owners. As an example, right next door, the North Acton Treatment Facility, North Acton Treatment Corporation, services over 350 different owners and users. And that's a facility that's been in existence for over 40 years. Behind that, the treatment facility that's permitted as Laurel Hill services single-family homes. It was permitted for a 40A special permit, 55 and older, 64-unit condominium community, and 40Bs in the towns of Westford and Acton. And, these wastewater treatment facilities are all subject to standard documentation and procedures by the state. And they've had a lot of practice since there were 300 of these out there that are operating. And I asked Mr. Ferris if, in his background, if the taxpayers in any community had ever had to step up and support one of these facilities with taxpayer dollars, and his answer was not that I know of. I think he thought it was a silly question. But that was his answer, and I think that really should put this issue to bed.
I'm just going to ask you also again, because we're televised, and I'm sure there are viewers who might not have been at any of the prior hearings, would you just reiterate what are the financial safeguards that DEP requires for the WWTF in terms of the bond and the deposit funds? And
so when you build one of these facilities, you are required to set up two different reserve accounts, one for operating funds and one for capital funds. And the idea is that after a 20-year period on the capital side, for instance, you have enough funds in the account, so you could rebuild 25% of the plant. And the way these plants actually work is that you have a leach field, and the water that's going into the leach field is 99.9% drinking water. So it's clean water going into the leach field. So the leach field is not likely to need repair anytime. And then the other portions of the plant are components that might cost $15,000 or $25,000 or even $75,000 or $100,000, but you're not going to replace them all at the same time. So, a 25% reserve is plenty of money, and the state didn't develop that reserve account out of thin air. They have 300 plants that they regulate. They have operators that go into those plants 2 hours a day, 5 days a week. It's very highly controlled and regulated, and those operating and capital reserves are built on experience because they don't want taxpayers, and quite frankly, they want clean water. The reason that if your aggregate site is going to process 10,000 gallons a day, the reason they require that number for a wastewater treatment facility is that it's an economic thing. They would prefer that every single home was connected to a wastewater treatment facility. But if you only have 10 homes and you add up the cost of 10 septic systems, it doesn't buy you a wastewater treatment facility. So for smaller rural communities, it's not economically feasible. But if you have 10,000 gallons, they figure you're not building the septic systems, so by not building the septic systems, you can afford a wastewater treatment facility. So there's an economic basis for that number.
okay, thank you. I want to hear from any other boards that want to weigh in before I return to speakers that have spoken. And I want to hear from abutters, if there's any abutters or other people interested that want to weigh in, bearing in mind that if we choose to close the hearing tonight, this will be the last time anyone, including the applicant, gets to weigh in, because once we go into deliberations, we're not allowed to take any new information.
Can we clarify that all comments and discussion relating to ZBA powers in the decision?
And the comprehensive permit
Just to speed
parameters.
things up.
Okay, so I do have a letter from an abutter, and you having said that, I need to read this letter, even though it's not completely related to the ZBA decision, but it is. Letter is from Mark Levine, 66 Hartwell Avenue, Littleton, Mass. Dear Ms. Gould, I would appreciate it if you would share my concerns with the board this evening. I believe that Omni is pulling out all the stops, including agreements with abutters that amount to nothing more than a gag order, and threats of legal action against town boards to reach beyond the scope of the 40B under the purview of the 40B. In your deliberation on the 15 Great Road comprehensive permit, it is essential to this town that you address only the 40B project on Lot 1 and not give Omni an opportunity at a later date to use your agreement to usurp the planning board decision, HCA decision, or town meeting decision. HCA must be the host community agreement. The adjacent Lot 2, 40A subdivision project needs to be addressed solely by the planning board, as the project is not now and will not be affordable housing. These are two separate projects and should be treated as such by the appropriate town authority. Regarding the host community agreement, it is not a good deal for the town. The mitigation payment in the general scheme of things is far less than the town will ultimately expend on additional police, fire, and education in future years as a result of this project. The HCA is drafted in favor of Omni, and it should be the responsibility of our boards not to get what we can, but get what we need. It would be a smart decision to let the HCA go to the voters at town meeting, which would relieve you from any recourse from Omni. Let us decide. Now, having taken that letter in, I would just like to address 2 or 3 things in the letter that I personally disagree with, and I just want to put them on the table. First of all, the adjacent Lot 2 40A subdivision project is going to be addressed solely by the planning board. We have never tried to usurp that authority, nor do we intend to. Number 2, he said the HCA was drafted in favor of Omni. I would like to tell you that we have spent countless hours, Jeff, myself, town council, Mr. Ed Marchant, who's our consultant, countless hours getting as much as we possibly feel we can out of that agreement, and we did not let Omni and their lawyers run roughshod over us. We're very capable as strong people, and I myself have a legal background, so I input whatever I could bring to the table, and Chris and Tom Harrington worked darn hard, long hours, with several drafts and reiterations. So I just have a little bit of issue with his thinking that we let Omni draft that decision in their favor. Thirdly, I have had and struggled with the home mitigation idea for a lot of weeks and months here in front of this assembly, and what people think is mitigation or don't think is mitigation in this. A decision was sent to me today, and I don't know, Ed, if you want to talk about it, or I'll talk about it, but what struck me in this decision is that this little community asked for a fire truck, saying that the buildings were so tall that the ladder couldn't reach for fire safety, and they took it all the way. They took it to the HAC and lost. And lost there. So then they appealed it to the Supreme Judicial Court and lost there, and they appealed it one step further. Now, if anything is mitigation and necessary mitigation, it would be, to my thinking, a fire truck, because you need the ladder to put out the fire in these buildings. That's primary safety. That should be a primary part of a decision of any comprehensive permit. They lost. They said because the places were sprinklered and because the fire marshal said the hose would, even though it wouldn't reach the top of the building, the ladder wouldn't reach the top, the force of the water coming out of the hose would put the fire out. They lost that. So you want to tell me that we're not getting enough money, or you want to tell me we can shake the developer down for more things, I think we would lose it. So I just wanted to put that out there because the decision struck me. Yes, Mr.
I was involved in the Sunderland case and in front of the board, and for a while in front of the HAC. And what I would say, I'm not going to go to the decision. Obviously, we felt, that ultimately we would prevail. But the ZBA in Sunderland was generally in the same position, or the town was in the same position as you and the town are today. There was an attempt for compromise. Let's just leave it at that. The town just
said no
and rolled the dice. And the net effect is that it is what it is.
There are also things in that decision I think worthy of repeating. Again, I'm beating a dead horse, but there are people probably who will see this televised who haven't had the benefit of all of our meetings. In that same decision, Sunderland tried to argue that we're not an affluent community, and our housing costs, our available housing stock is already dollars below what the affordable housing number would be with affordable units. So even though they're not affordable units and on the register, let us count them, because we have far more affordable housing options here already than you could possibly give us at the state level. And they lost that in front of the HAC. The HAC said you can only count units that have been certified under this process. They also said, if you aggregate all the communities around here and how well we're doing in the regional need, and they lost that argument. And then they said, and look at what it will cost our schools per child per capita, look at what it will cost our community for education. They lost at that level. So everything we've been saying here from day one is this 40B process requires us to give you a comprehensive permit. Now, we're trying to do the best we can with it, and we're trying to compromise.
I would just add to that, at the Selectmen's meeting, I think Sunderland had issued, and Chris gave a summary of the Sunderland case, and the Board of Selectmen had asked about the Lunenburg case. And I think Chris had aptly said that in those two cases, the opponents to the 40B, whoever they were, or the denial, was that their new silver bullets that hadn't been tried before. I think that's a fair idea. It was another, you're okay until the second lawyer moves into the town. So in any event, those arguments failed. Now, that doesn't mean that any project is going to get carte blanche approval by a Board of Appeals and never be legitimately able to be turned down. I think we're way past that in this project. And having said that, and I think you've heard from your own consultant that we're way past that in this project in terms of approving and disapproving the project. So those are the realities, and I think not only is the HAC, and I would address Ed, been very favorable to almost the affordable housing components in terms of allowing projects to go forward. But my reading of the SJC cases is that they have almost always affirmed the HAC in terms of their decisions. I only recall one where they went off pretty much on procedural grounds more than, but I don't know, pretty much all of the HAC cases, one after another.
I'm not a lawyer, and I never read decisions correctly, but I think it's clear to say in both the Lunenburg and Sunderland decisions that the SJC, the highest court in the state, affirmed the HAC decisions.
HAC being Housing Appeals Committee.
And the HAC is headed by Werner Lowy. He's very careful, and he drafts careful decisions. And he has rarely been overturned on appeal.
Thank you. Okay, now I will hear from another letter to read in.
There was an email that was sent in and shared with board members.
I didn't see this one.
Part of the package tonight.
Okay. Forgive me. Please share my, this is from Nancy Lanevy, or is it Levine, and it was typed, a typographical error?
Yeah, name at the end is spelled differently.
Oh, it's Nancy Levine, and she's on 49 Grist Mill Road. So she's a direct abutter.
No relation to vote?
No.
She's not in a butter to an abutter.
She's not in a butter to an abutter either. Forgive me.
She's on the old part of Grist Mill.
Oh, she's on the old part of Grist Mill Road. Okay, I stand corrected. Dear Cheryl Gould, Chairman and members of the Zoning Board of Appeals, I'm sending you this email in regards to Omni and their many phases of development in the areas off of routes 2A, 119, Grist Mill, and Surrey Roads. I was hoping to make this somewhat short, but that's very difficult. Omni continues to make demands on the town that are just not for good of our town. However, they may be very beneficial to Omni. I don't want to bore you, but I need to share a little background. In 1996, hearings started for the Apple Dior development. Mr. DiCarlo and others were involved at that time. Some of you might have been at these hearings. I was there. I'm still here for this fiasco with Omni. Omni developers have approved from the state, have approval from the state for a 40B project. This alone boggles one's mind. Avalon Apartments are barely half full, and Omni is adding more apartments that also won't be filled. The two locations for both these apartment complexes are about 1.5 miles apart. Now let's proceed. I'm attempting to summarize Omni's plans. Omni first approached the town with the development of a 40B project. Then Omni asked for a subdivision next door to the 40B, and part of which involves some of Grist Mill Road. Let's continue. Then Omni decides that they also want to build houses in the areas Surrey Road, Gristmill Road. If you recall in the past, these apple deer lots were deemed not buildable by the town because of the ledge rocks and perking problems. Okay then, so now Omni wants to blast these lots and connect them to the 40B septic treatment plant. Excuse me? What benefit would this be to the town? I can't see any. I can only see disaster in the making. I don't have to list the potential problems that blasting can have. You already know. Shared sewage systems is unprecedented in our town. What would happen in the future if this was allowed? I don't even want to think about it. How does the town of Concord view this? This blasting would be less than half a mile from their reservoir. Who will pay if something goes wrong? Who will take the responsibility? We're talking about a very precious commodity here, water. Then we have the offer of dollars to the town if all of Omni's projects are approved and completed. Monies offered for today will not be near enough for what might unfold in the future. If they made an offer for many times this amount, it still won't be enough. However, some board members might be looking at this as a way to help our town out of some fiscal woes. Good thoughts, but please think this through. Don't let this happen. This will only add to our future burdens in a very few short years. If it's too good to be true, it's not. What's to say that this money offered will even be there in the end? Please, you must look at the bigger picture as to what might happen if this project has problems down the road. Look at the town's past experiences with such dealings. It's not always wonderful and at many times very costly to the town. Omni is never satisfied and is always asking for more. When will this stop? You can stop it. The Zoning Board of Appeals and other boards do have this authority. Omni asked for 40B and the state approved their plans. The town does not have to approve their other requests. Think not only of today but tomorrow. Please don't give them approval. I will also be sending this email to the Planning Board, Board of Health, Selectmen, and the Town of Concord. Again, having read it out loud, I'm just going to table it because I don't think it really addresses what we can or can't do under the 40B project, so it's in the record. Mr. MacGyver.
Sure. You asked about the planning board, and we just saw the materials for the first time, and we were discussing it. But one suggestion that was made by the chair that I thought was reasonable, we didn't take a vote because we were just addressing it, is that, what's before you for the 40B on Lot 1, be approved as appropriate, but not for the sewer lines that extend off of Lot 1 to the border. And it was suggested making that recommendation to you. It hadn't been a motion, was discussed, got sort of hung up on the suggestion that DEP would approve stuff, including zoning, which isn't their role. So that may happen even if after the fact. Now, certainly if you approve the appropriate parts that you see as appropriate for the comprehensive plan for the 40B for Lot 1, there's nothing to stop you, if compelled, to modify it. This evening, you just compelled a 40, you just modified a 40B. But at this point, that additional sewer line adds nothing for affordable housing.
Well, we're not going to vote that tonight, Mr. MacGyver, and we are going to postpone any vote until after the planning board inputs. And correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Heap, but I think that since part of the comprehensive permit involves going out to all of our boards and departments for their input, I think that even if we close the hearing, for the purpose of hearing what the planning board and the selectmen say, we can take their decision and their minutes into our deliberations.
Right, we've yet to do those minutes. You mentioned that you may close.
No, I'm asking town council, Mr. McGovern.
I just want to be sure it was on the record.
No. During your deliberations, I can certainly notify you of what other boards have done. I don't think, because the public hearing is closed, this board can't take administrative notice of what other boards have done.
Can or cannot?
Cannot. You can.
We can take administrative notice of what other boards have done in our deliberations, especially if it's public record. And so we wouldn't be able to have a back and forth with the other boards without reopening the hearing.
Correct.
But we certainly can bring to the attention of the board during our deliberations what the decisions were at both of those boards.
And just another point that I wanted to make is, I recognize the host community agreement is very difficult, and there's been a lot of hard negotiations, hasn't really been shared at large, but, yeah, people have been working on it hard. The whole fact that it's so problematic should raise red flags. There are a lot of problems with it, I think. I mean, at the Board of Selectmen meeting, I questioned the part about litigation against anyone that opposes it. I thought that was a problem. I know that's been negotiated. There are a lot of problematic parts. The part that I also raised was that it talks about the sale of rights and easements. This is especially to deal with the marginal properties on Surrey Road and Grist Mill, that there really is setting a precedent of selling some town rights, and that isn't really mitigation. Mitigation is a compensation and has a whole nother aspect to it that, in particular for Lot 2 in the subdivision, the planning board, we're dealing with mitigation, we're saying, oh, this is inappropriate mitigation. But this is really a sale of something, of the town's rights, and sets a bad precedent. Even though this is suggested going to town meeting, it will set a precedent, and all sorts of marginal lots are likely to get developed. It's Pandora's box. I think it's a place we don't really want to go. So I just want that on the record. Also, it was mentioned at the Board of Selectmen's meeting, but I want to be sure
that it gets mentioned here.
that too.
I appreciate that, because I attended the other meeting, so it's in my head, but it wasn't brought before this board yet. Go ahead.
Well, to move this along, we've debated this issue for a couple of meetings now, and no, we're just spending a lot of time going through, basically rehashing the powers of the zoning board of appeals in regards to this 40B project and this decision. All the mitigation and the other board meetings and everything else outside in regards to host community agreement is, correct me if I'm wrong, is separate. We, schedule this meeting tonight to take a final look at the draft, see if there's anything else to be entered, and if we can move on. And, I think there's only one or two places in here that even references the wastewater treatment facility, and one place that references the host community agreement. If the language is such in here, it could be such, or even an alternate language that could be such, that we could say, okay, now we have all the information we need. We could close the hearing, and then let however the host community agreement resolves with all the other parties, and then by the time we make our decision, we can base on that outcome. But I don't think we need to be we are concerned, but our powers or our responsibility is with this project only, not what's happening on Surrey Road, what's not happening with the 40A project, or any other property that Omni may own.
So I would listen to a motion to close, if you're ready to close.
We would be in favor of closing the hearing. The only thing I have to submit, and it's really not really a submittal, this is a disc. On the disc is, for the board's benefit, the last draft that I believe you're looking at of the draft decision.
Yep.
We've added, this is the one that was attached to the most recent host community agreement, and to which is attached now the missing Exhibit A, which was the approval not required plan. So this is, again, it feeds to the board.
Just the gist of the existing draft decision that we have in front
Right,
of
in
us.
the most final form that Chris and I went over that was submitted to the Board of Selectmen.
Is that fair, Mr. Heath, to say that it's the final form now?
Well, you can show it to him, and I'll send him a copy of the disc, but it's...
Okay.
It's coming from his office. You have one that came from my office.
So I will accept that,
And
and
then in here is our suggestion for an alternate decision, and that's again for deliberation, depending on what happens to the host community agreement.
And I'm going to suggest that the alternate decision language not even be presented and reviewed by the board unless and until we find out what the selectmen are going to do.
I'm not asking you to review it now. All I'm saying, I'm submitting it, and it may become moot, depending on what happens, but I'm just submitting the disc.
And before we close the hearing tonight, board members have had, the latest draft presented to them. I know I've looked at it, gone back, and made couple suggestions to get done. That's what is in front of us now. I know I've gone through this page by page. Now, I think, Chairperson, you ought to check with other board members to see if there's any other comments that will be made to this draft decision before we close our hearing. Anyone else?
Would that include the public? Because you've heard people have had a hard time
Have you,
finding.
I guess it depends if the public has seen this latest draft and have comments in regards to what's in the draft.
I actually have a small, no, I have a big reservation to that. We've been conducting these hearings, everything has been available to the public. The public has had an opportunity to come to every one of these hearings. They've been properly posted, including our deliberation sessions over the draft decision. I am not going to postpone closing the hearing to wait for the public to read the draft decision. That was something done, as I believe any decision is done. It's drafted by the lawyers and whoever was appointed on the committee to draft it. The public, at this point, all the public could do is dot i's and cross t's. The framework of the decision was...
We've done a lot of that already.
Of course it's already done. So no, I'm not going to hold closing the hearing for the public to input to their comments to the drafting of the decision.
Okay, so I'm just giving you the disc. You can do...
Well, I don't think you should give us a disc that has an alternate decision on it, because that's not part, I don't want to take the alternate decision into the public record. I want the drafters of the decision to alter this one if it becomes necessary.
Okay, so Chris, does the
Well,
board
we
have...
cannot alter beyond what's already been presented up until the closing of the hearing.
Yes, we can, because we can vote not to allow or to modify provisions in it in our deliberations.
Based on information presented up to this point.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
And we have that information. We're waiting for the selectmen to
I
weigh in.
agree with you about the alternate. I don't understand that whole thing.
I don't think it should be submitted.
Because we don't have a, no.
We have a draft
We don't have
decision.
anything to
Chris,
review.
does the
and-
board have the very last decision with the exhibit attached to it?
It does.
Okay. With the changes that were submitted to the selectmen?
Yes.
Okay, fine.
Mr. Hill.
I wondered if you would indulge me just a few minutes for me to articulate why it is we think that we have the right to make connections to the wastewater treatment facility. We've had, I know I've done...
I don't think I'm going to do that here, because that's not within the scope of the 40B decision. So the board is going to take this draft decision. It's been the recommended draft decision. It contemplates that planning board will approve either an open space or a subdivision, and it contemplates that selectmen will act favorably on a host community agreement. If that doesn't happen, our deliberations will commence a day or two after February 4th. We have all the input, all the information we need. We don't need to sell this to anyone else. I think the board has heard everything they need to hear about your arguments for why you think we can't restrict it. And we have town council's input, we have Mr. Marchand's input, and I think it's time to close this hearing and move along and get to the deliberations. One more.
Sorry, so just so you can give a talk, John Bershon, 92 Gristmill Road,
Thank
as an abutter. So just a couple of things. So just earlier you made a comment about the number of three-bedroom apartments. So as an abutter, I prefer to have fewer.
Thank you.
So just to make sure you're aware of that. The other point I wanted to make is a number of times at multiple meetings, including this evening, and people have talked about the gag order that's in place. So clearly I'm here, I'm speaking. I mean, I'm not happy with the agreement, but I also believe that sometimes you have to play the hand that you're dealt. And quite frankly, I think the ZBA, the PD, based on recent rulings and stuff like that, sometimes you've got to make the best of what you've got. So I'm here voicing my opinion. The agreement that we have doesn't restrict anybody from speaking up. What it does do is based on concessions that we negotiated as willing adults with Omni, right? We made a decision to, cut down the size of the building, change the footprint, do a whole bunch of other things, do setbacks, as a commitment to say, so once the boards have rendered their decisions to not appeal, specifically the abutters. So Lou or David, if I said something incorrect, please do correct me, but I just think that, to indicate that, anyone has been prevented from speaking up, I just don't think is accurate.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Madam Chairman, Chris gave me a copy of the final decision, and attached to it is Exhibit A, which you don't have. I'm just giving what Chris gave me to give to you. Okay? Well, Exhibit A is no more than the approval not required plan. Okay, so it'd be part of the record.
Okay, so we'll take that into the record tonight, and that'll be posted to the website and handed to the admin, please.
And you might want to white out the DLP info.
I said one more. If I'm not going to go one more, 10 more times. Okay, go ahead and speak.
John Coughlin, Coughlin Road. And please bear with me, just, I'm a little confused that according to Mr. Levine's letter, that you folks can sign off on the 40B and the 40B only. And the 40A is the responsibility of the planning board, correct?
That's correct.
And Omni is contesting that.
No, they're not
They're not
contesting that.
contesting.
No, they're not contesting that.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
They're not contesting the open space plan, the bylaw.
No, they're not
Convention.
contesting our autonomy over the 40B and yours over the 40A. That was the question.
Just for clarification, I mean, that's one of the things they can.
No, what the planning board is contesting, he can go to the planning board to hear. The whole planning board. Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, Jane Crisfield, Mill Lane. I mean, you made a comment about, you've been deliberating on this for several months, but I hear also that the draft, people don't know if they have the last draft or not, so how can the public read the last draft?
You're
So that's a
not
problem.
entitled to read the decision. You're entitled to come here and let your objection be known to the things that we have been reviewing over all this time. But for instance, tonight, when we're done with you, we have one hearing that was held. I stepped out of the room, but they took it, they closed the hearing, and they're going to deliberate. When they deliberate and make that decision tonight, one of the board members is going to write it. We don't send that out on the website and say, everybody comment to that written decision. It will be what this board decided and deliberated. Were you here for that hearing earlier tonight, you could have input your objections. So it's the same thing here. We're at the tail end of this process.
But I'm trying to say something about how the public becomes informed about stuff.
August 2011 is when we started these meetings, August
Okay,
2011.
and I'd like to say that I try to read some of the minutes from some of the major boards that are making decisions, and I tried to look up, see what was going on currently in this board, and there are no minutes from beyond September. So, I mean, I'm just trying to make a comment to you that we need to be informed. We can't go to every meeting, sometimes we have other sources.
But we're on the website. Mr. Bergman and his staff have posted anything that's happened before he goes home tonight. We've sometimes gone till 11 and I've seen his light on until 1 posting it. It's there on the website before dawn, every single time we've met. Mr. Marchant.
I have worked on 144 40Bs. This has been the most transparent 40B I've worked on.
And it's on the website, under the 2 places they said. You can get it through the ZBA or right from the homepage.
I didn't see it on the ZBA.
You can see the 40.
I may be blind, but I did see it on the ZBA.
It's there, and you can walk into the offices anytime, day or night, and people call me at my office. I'm there 9 to 5 every day. My cell phone is a listed number. My email is public. People call me all the time and say, what's going on? I will be glad to direct you and even discuss with you. I can't make a decision without a meeting and a posting, but anybody who's wanted access to what's going on at this board has been able to reach almost any member of the board and have information. So it hasn't been closed. It's been very open.
In a copy of the draft decision, each time the draft comes out, it has been made fillable to the public through Mr. Bergman's office and through the Zoning Board of Appeals Building Commissioner office. I mean, it's been there.
Yeah, but you've also said it's been revised.
It was revised as of like the end of last week, beginning of this week, and it's been available since then. So it's still out there. I mean, it's still available to the public.
Revisions have not been substantive things. They've been things like, do we want 4 more trees in the landscape area? Or things like the fire department wants, what you said tonight.
I checked with the fire department. Well, a couple of things I picked up is that it still says 2012 instead of 2013. I mean, January tonight is 2013. That was one of the corrections was made. There was a title of one of the zoning bylaw, one of the regulation that was made. I mean, but it's in there. It's been corrected. Now, these are the kind of things. Again, the latest draft, after all those comments, has been available. People just need to know that they can go to the zoning board of appeals office, the town administrator's office, or contact anybody upstairs, and they'll direct you to the right place if you're not at the right place.
Mr. Bergman was
It's
first.
just that the date of the current version of the draft decision that's posted at the website, and I was able to find it using the drop-down menus that where Shelley posts all of the files, is dated the 15th of January, so it's fairly recent. And also, you had mentioned earlier that typically the public input process is on the application. It's not on the decision. That you have the application, you have the hearing, the public input, you close the hearing, and then you do the decision. Here, you've taken an additional step of getting a running start at the form of the decision.
No.
Months ago, and then sharing that version of the draft even while the public hearing was still open. So I think you've gone, quite an additional step of having that draft decision be available.
As do I, thank you. Thank you for saying that. I really want to close.
No, I do. I want to close, and I just want to say that, as Keith said, there's been a number of draft decisions, and as we've gone along, the issues have become less substantive and more ministerial. So as Bill said, the last changes to the decision are almost, are meaningless in terms of content. But there have been a number of versions, and as we've got to the last ones, the changes have either been wordsmithing in terms of punctuation or him picking up a date and stuff like that. So I would ask to have the meeting closed now.
I'll entertain a motion.
Motion from the developer.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Farnsworth.
I make the motion that we close the public hearing on the 15 Great Road 2 LLC 40B comprehensive permit.
Second the motion.
I'll second it.
John Cantina seconds. You're voting. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. This hearing is closed.
Thank you.
L'chaim. Rod. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to schedule a deliberation session. I need my team available.
And then the full set.
Want to wait till after the selectmen meet on the 4th, so... Yes, I do. Don MacGyver? Is John MacGyver still here?
Hey, Don.
Excuse me, Don, can you help me out here? Don MacGyver. Is planning board meeting on February 8th?
January 31st.
And will they meet again on February 8th?
February 8th, no.
I mean 7th?
No, our next meeting is the 31st.
And they won't meet a week later? 1 week later?
Leslie,
I don't know. I think, no, it's the 14th. Yeah, it's the 14th, sorry.
Okay.
Things got changed in this.
All right, team, does it make sense to have our next meeting on that week after the selectmen meet, or a week later in case planning board takes 2 weeks to decide?
Well, let's do it the week after, and
Okay, all right.
then we can always,
Let's do it 6th, 7th, or 13th, 14th.
February?
Yeah.
I'm not here.
When are you
What's
going?
the,
From the 3rd through the 7th.
what's the spring break?
All right, and the spring
The
break
17th.
is the 17th, so,
Because
Let's-
I'm gone during the day.
all right, so let's meet on the 14th of February.
Valentine's Day.
So what?
Where's the romance?
Where's the romance?
We'll do it by candlelight.
My romance is every day of the year. Never mind. I don't pick one day.
Oh, boy, yes.
Oh, that one.
Oh, that's good.
Does the Thursday, the 14th, work for everybody? And then we will make that our regular meeting, so we don't have, our next meeting would run into spring break.
So it'll be the second week, second Thursday.
Is that all right?
Yes.
The 14th, February 14th, and we'll make it 7:15.
That works.
Everybody can make that? You're all right with that? And that will be our February meeting instead of the 21st, so that we can all have school vacation off. You all set with that?
What time did you say?
7:15.
Motion to continue, let's not continue the hearing, motion to continue deliberations, right?
We don't need to do that, do we?
Yeah, I think we have to, yeah, I think we
We
do.
close the hearing. We can,
Close the hearing, but we have to have a posted
we have a motion.
deliberation.
We just did it. We don't need a motion.
I think we do.
Well, council, I think you have to post any meeting.
We have to post it, but I think we should continue it by motion formally to the
But we're not continuing. It's not continuing.
Closed.
Just scheduling.
scheduling
Right,
deliberations.
we can just schedule, we don't need. Yep.
But you'll post it.
Yes.
You still have another one to deliberate here?
Yes.
I'll leave. Which kind do you want, Dr. Peppermint, AirPods?
Stay away from that. These things are awesome.
Hey, board members.
We're gonna forget about that.
I remember at the beginning, Ms. Fortune, we're all resentful about it. We've done great proposals, you guys came up with money and all that. Now it's up to sort of money to do this. They'll just do some, cut off their nose to spite their. Oh, yes. Oh, they will. Of course you do.
Right, board members, let's return to 19 or 21 Crane Road, lot number 9, which is a variance for setback to front and side property lines for a retaining wall, which is required for the construction placement of a septic system. Do I have any discussion on that?
I do not support this the way it's presently designed. I think I could possibly give a variance if the wall at the front was parallel to the front property line at some distance back from the front property line, so it could be burnt, so they could actually screen it. But if I lived on Crane Road, I would be not too happy if I saw this going up in what is now essentially a wetland. It's an extreme variance. It's a variance of 30 feet.
It is, we've had a problem with this with the Board of Health and these for quite a while now.
I'm not saying there are different designs that I wouldn't, I guess I'm saying that I think there's more work to be done on this. And as it's
We're very
designed-
close to hearing.
Okay. Well, no, I know, but
Yeah.
in terms of this, and so, from a procedural point of view, if they were denied, they can't come back for a while. But
2 years.
2 years. So it might be good, I don't know how the rest of the board feels, but it might be good to have them take another shot at this.
We can't do that. We already closed the hearing. We have to make a decision.
So they can't withdraw.
They can't withdraw without prejudice?
No, it's not at this point.
Is there a decision we can make consistent with that, so that allows them to come back?
Now, that's a very interesting question. It's a legal question that has been asked in the zoning community in the past. And once you get to this point, it cannot be withdrawn without prejudice.
But can they modify it enough that it would be considered a new application?
We've already closed the hearing. We have to deliberate on what's in front of us now. We have two options: to grant or deny. If we deny, it needs to be specific reasons and everything else. It follows along the zoning bylaw in 40A, Chapter 40A Act, for deny over variance. If we deny, and they could redo and whatever else, and then reapply.
Oh, they can reapply with a different...
But there's a 2-year window they have to wait.
Depends how different it is.
Yeah, because what it does, it keeps people from just resubmitting, changing a couple details, resubmitting, changing details, resubmitting. And yes, it's a two-year window.
You guessed it.
Now, you know, and I understand, and I agree, I don't like the idea of this 6-foot wall sitting out in the middle, by the edge of the road. But where is, as the legal people would put it, where is the harm? Aesthetics being not considerable. Okay, where is the harm? That's why, in the discussion, the questions were asked and they came out, it's like, how close to the road is it? Because safety, line of sight safety, traffic safety is an issue. It's about 10 to 15 feet back, by the way it's angled and everything else. That's ample and adequate for line of sight and not to be a safety issue. You know, other than aesthetics?
Well, but there's another issue here, is that we can provide a variance based on topography, soils, this and that. And there is a case to
Well,
be
it's
made.
not a variance, it's what is unique in regard to...
However,
that.
this does not represent the only solution that could have been done to overcome the issues on
But
this
it's the
site.
only solution that's presented in front of us.
Right, and I can't support it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and you know, one of the things I was thinking, like in the side yard, it's not much different than if you put up a fence. But on the other hand, it is, because let's say 20 years down the road, it fails. They have to bring heavy equipment onto somebody else's property to
That's
repair it.
beyond our purview. I know what you're saying.
But it's
I know what
just
you're
a
saying.
justification for not granting a 1-foot setback on the side, isn't it?
I think you could grant an easement on the other lot.
But we can't grant the easement.
No, but I think the person selling the lot
I don't
next
know how
to
they're
it,
gonna
where he
build
owns
it.
this lot,
Yeah.
whoever's gonna buy that future lot, if I was to buy the land next to it, I would say I want an easement.
And that's fine, but they didn't present
I
it.
agree, there are a lot of legal questions in regards to construction of this, and the placement being 1 foot. I've dealt with this in the past on, you know, cases where people want to be that close, doing foundations or whatever else. Again, it's outside of the zoning bylaw. I mean, I agree, 1 foot is way too close. How do you build it, how do you not? Because if that's the wall there, there's gonna be a footing underneath, and by the way they do the footing and everything else, is it gonna encroach upon the other property? That's an issue that they would have to deal with. You know, if we were to grant the variance, they would have to deal with the building permit process. But
now, I don't know where to read on this drawing, but I don't know, this looks like a huge septic system. You know, is it a 5-bedroom septic? Is it a 4-bedroom septic?
It's probably 4 bedrooms, most of them designed for 4 bedrooms,
Okay.
even if you only have 3.
State regulations says you have to do, I think, it's either a minimum 3 or a minimum 4-bedroom systems.
But this is not a minimum septic system, which maybe it should have been. There's a whole variety of issues that we're presented with that we don't that I don't believe we're obligated to, I'm just...
And there are some cases, for instance, the ones on Surrey Road with ledge or with parking or whatever else, they're just not buildable because they can't.
Even though they're
septic
approved lots.
system. Yeah, they just can't build them, and that's why they want to tie into the waste treatment plant. Maybe this is one of those sites that just is not feasible to put a septic system on.
Is, that the house is a certain size, it could have been smaller, there are a variety of things that could have done, that they could have moved the septic system away from the property line somewhat so that they wouldn't be
All right,
so...
let me get a feeling. I mean, Jeff, I know your feeling.
Right.
And it seems like other board members, you're kind of following along with the same rationale. Because what we could do, we got like 45 days to make a decision. We don't need to do it tonight. We can put it off until our next meeting. We can get back to the applicant and make them aware that here are the concerns. See if they want to make a revision and come back in and we can reopen the case.
Okay, you can reopen the hearing.
You can reopen.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's the appropriate, because then that puts a little pressure
Yeah,
on them to try and
I don't want
find
to
those
preclude them
solutions.
from developing this site, but in this manner, it's not...
Yeah.
I know,
one thing-
I'm torn in the same way.
Yeah.
If it was an existing building that they were trying to sell, I'd say, well, it's already, but it's
Yeah.
it's an open lot.
Yeah.
It's a brand new building.
5-pound container, round container, in a 1
Yeah.
square foot.
Now, another, I don't know if it violates this, but under Article 9, or 9, Landscaping and Screening, 173-44, Corner Vision, it says, "No wall, fence, structure, planting, or other obstruction to a driver's vision may be permitted at eye level, 2.5 to 8 feet above street grade within 20 feet from the intersection of street sidelines."
If that is an issue, then the building inspector could not issue a building permit.
Well, that tells me that anything has got to be
Yeah.
20 feet from the road, and this is,
Well,
but 10 feet.
Again, the building commissioner
So-
could not issue a permit. If he didn't realize it at the time the permit was issued, he could not issue the final certificate of occupancy or certificate of use for that, if that is the case.
And you can't just go by it's 10 feet. I mean, so the town may
Yeah.
pave right up to the
Yeah.
property line, and then it's 0 feet.
So is it the feeling of the board, that we do not make a decision tonight, that we hold off and get back to the applicant and let them know of the concerns and see if they want to maybe go back to the Board of Health, or, no, see if they want to ask for a reopening and continuance on this and see what they can do.
Yeah, with the reopen possibility for the applicant, I think we should give them a chance to come up with something different.
Do we want to give any guidelines on that, rather than have them keep coming back with something that we're going to shoot down?
Try to get as close.
Guidelines is this is too high and too close to property line and too
But
close to
the other thing
hill.
is if it was a more aesthetically pleasing wall, as opposed to, I mean, let's face it, it's a stone face, but it looks like concrete block.
It's the same block they used to build
Yeah.
Route 2 over.
If they were willing to cover it with,
They were
New York,
geotech-
Pennsylvania fieldstone, a little bit like what's in front of the
Well,
Toyota dealership, that
there
looks
are
a
geotech-
lot.
But also,
materials out there
they
too.
could just, from the property line, berm up. Even if they could reduce the visible height of the wall if they had room to do that, or planting, or, whatever. But it's still gonna be along the driveway. I don't know who would buy this house to begin with, the way it is now.
And the
Unless
person
it's-
owns both this lot and the lot to the right, correct?
Yes.
So we're not preventing him from building. This would, by denying, would just prevent him from building 2 homes instead of 1.
Well, no, what is happening is that they're selling this piece of property to the developer who's going to build a house on it.
Yeah.
When they build a house, they need to have the septic system. When they get the septic system, they need to put up this wall.
Yeah. So by
As is-
denying it, we're not preventing somebody from building on that lot, we're preventing somebody from selling it to another person to build on it. So the person who presently owns it is not as big a hardship.
Basically, you're making it a non-buildable lot.
If he
Or-
decides to sell it
Or a
off.
different scheme. I mean, there are other things. They could provide an easement on their property to put the septic system on. There's a lot of solutions if they want to go through, the...
Yeah, but the reality is there are unbuildable lots in town, and this may be one of them.
Or they can scale down and again...
They could provide a grading easement along the side here. There's
Well,
just...
the other thing is to scale down the size of the house, scale down the size of the septic system or whatever else.
Yeah.
So,
And I don't know how big the lot to the right is, maybe you can deed more property to
Yeah, that's the
lot 9
thing.
and make it a little bigger.
Move it over and turn the thing. so-
okay,
Yeah.
so we'll hold off making the decision. And again, we have 45 days from tonight to make a decision. We can hold off on that, and then, now I will, through Shelley, through the office, contact back to the applicant and let them know that we're holding off and hear the concerns and see if they want to adjust. And, if not, then we would deal with what we have done.
So essentially saying we are essentially opening up the hearing now. If they have more information, then reopening the
We could open up the hearing again, yes. Yeah, if they come in and say, yes, we're willing to do this and everything else, we'll open up the hearing, and then we can even continue with it from that point to give them X number, a month or so to come up with something. So. All right? Okay. Then that's where we will leave it.
Does it need a vote?
Okay.
Can you vote on that, or is it,
No, we went all through that with the other one, we don't need a vote to delay this decision on this reschedule.
And I think, that the comments that have been made are very viable, and I think this solution is very viable. So what I want to do.
And there were some minutes that you two had copies of, why don't we just go ahead and make those approved? 'Cause,
No, that's it, we're up to November, and that's tonight, she's gonna pass those
Yeah,
out
we don't have
tonight.
November.
Okay, because I do think, and that one brought up a good point. We at times get 3-4 months behind on those minutes. We probably should get them approved following.
Under the state law, the draft minutes have to be available. So anybody can come up and see the draft minutes before they're
But
voted.
they're not official until they get...
But they're not official, but they can see them. There's nothing to prevent people from reading what we've done.
Anything else?
I think it's, we could move to close the hearing, close the meeting.
Adjourn. Motion to adjourn.
second that motion?
Mark seconds, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Cool.